Welcome to Film Strip. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504(c)(2), Title 17.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
I'm Chris.
And we're here to talk about Les Diaboliques, starring Simone Signoret, Vera Clouzot, Paul Maurice, and Charles Vanal. Directed by Henry Georges Clouzot, released in 1955 to international acclaim. And if I haven't butchered it enough there, we're talking about Diabolique. Some of you may know that as the Sharon Stone movie from 1996 with Chaz Palminteri trying to eat her neck at one point. But no, we're talking about the original. And Chris, you brought this one to the table. You actually gave me a laundry list of like ideas. And I'm like, yes. But off of that list, this one just stuck out to me. And I was like, what's that all about? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, curious. So I want to know your background with this one.
Oh, man. My background goes back like 25 years. 25 years ago, taking French class and being bored out of my mind. And the teacher, Ms. Shannon, decided, you know what? I think this can be a good idea to sit these kids down and have them watch a black and white film from the Criterion Collection, all in French, and let's see how much they can get out of it. And to be honest, going back through the rewatch, I didn't remember very much from the movie, to be honest, except that, you know, I remembered enjoying it then, and I really enjoyed it, being able to sit down as an adult 25 years later and understanding what's going on, and just really how well put together it felt.
I'm glad you brought this one up because I think I know the story of this one, and I'm not too uncertain. I haven't seen that Sharon Stone one. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the genre that this is part of, or maybe the subgenre, the subgenre this represents, is something I happen to really be into. I love the dastardly romantic thriller. There were a ton of these between the 80s and the 90s, one sleazier than the next. That I just couldn't get enough of. And I'm talking like Fatal Attraction is like class, all right? I'm talking about like all the Basic Instinct knockoffs that happen, you know, Fatal Analysis and, you know, Another 9.5 Weeks and all of that kind of stuff, right? But what I had always heard, I had heard people reference this movie as a, hey, if you like Hitchcock, or if you like the femme fatale kind of flick, or if you like, you know, mystery noir with twists and Shyamalan and all that, you really owe it to yourself to eventually see this one, because it's where a lot of them kind of root from. It's certainly not original in itself, because I'll say now, I think it takes from something that came out about 11 years beforehand, but we'll talk about it when we get into it. But this movie is very much a kind of a linchpin for a lot of other movies. Like Halloween is not the first killer point of view movie, right? But it's the one everybody kind of stems from. And it's also the one that like gave birth to eons of movies behind it. And I kind of feel the same way about this one as well.
Yeah, you know, and to be honest, I don't know that I was really ever into this genre or subgenre of movies myself. The closest I can really come to it to recall really being like, oh man, that was great. And it's funny you mentioned Shyamalan and what a twist of the stuff that he put in there. But for me, I think of, Christopher McQuarrie and The Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
Which was right in my wheelhouse. It came out mid to late 90s. Great stuff, great twist. You really had a hard time following it. So I was glad that you picked this one. And you know, it's funny. And you mentioned having heard about how Hitchcockian it is. And if I recall correctly, Henry Georges Clouzot stole this movie. He was able to slip in just before Hitchcock and buy the rights to it. And Hitchcock ended up doing Vertigo instead, but was a huge fan of this film, which, you know, obviously it's got all the hallmarks that you need, save maybe some acting chops in a couple places.
Yeah.
there are a couple of moments where you're like, I mean, I know this is, you know, 1955. That's all right. But really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the actor among the two of us here, so I'm really going to ask you about some of the choices that some of these people make in this film. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that for sure. But no, I like I like a good thriller. And I think Usual Suspects is a lot of things, but it's a thriller in a lot of ways. And I love a good mystery and a movie that is bold enough to tell you at the end of it, don't spoil it for everybody else.
Right.
Hitchcock did that with Psycho, famously. But I love that. And that was the thing, too. Like, Shyamalan would say that about some of his early films. Like, don't spoil it for everyone else. And then people went to, like, Lady in the Water, like, what the hell is there to spoil? So at some point, like, there was nothing else to spoil. It sucks. There you go. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I like that kind of movie that leaves you with that. And I like something that's a challenge, too, because I've seen foreign language films with subtitles, all that kind of stuff, but it's not something I just go to automatically. And it's not something we have ever done on Film Strip in almost 300 episodes, something that's heavily subtitled.
Wow. So I was able to get a first one in there for you.
Yeah. So you broke the seal on a big one that we needed to get to. And but I'm glad we did, because it'll be fun to talk about this one, because, again, you're going to do the plot summary in a minute, and people are going to hear this and go, I know that movie. I've seen that like 1,800 other times. And yes, you have.
Yes,
but
many
this
different
is
ways.
Yeah, but as the book will go, this is the one that kind of started it. And another thing I kind of flashed when I was thinking about this, Kurt and I reviewed Eyes Wide Shut last November, which, Kubrick does everything based off a book. And that was a book with kind of a mystery in it. And there's about 25 minutes of that movie that's a real page-turner thriller mystery, and surrounded by 2 hours of people staring at each other and yelling at each other for reasons you don't understand. And I still don't understand. But in the middle of it is something like this. And so I don't know. I think directors get fascinated with something that they know the audience is going to actively be trying to figure out. How is that happening? What is that? Is it a ghost? No, it's got to be real, and kind of toy with that idea. And that's a fun line to walk on. Shyamalan certainly does that.
Oh, definitely. Sixth Sense is nothing but that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he even tells you right up front, I see dead people. And you're like, whatever, kid, you're crazy. What are you talking about? I felt like the setup, even going back and watching it again, this movie's got some big left turns where you're like, wait, what? And especially if you're not a native French speaker, right? So if you're like us and you're reading along, how much of the movie are you missing because you're reading subtitles that are going along at a good clip, and you look away for a moment, or we live in the days that we live in. You look at your phone for 2 seconds and you look back up. You're like, what the hell just happened?
Oh yeah,
is this the same movie?
I caught myself like muting the phone,
and
just watching this and trying to watch it before anything I thought newsworthy would break. Just so I could focus in on it, because I don't know any French at all. The only French I know at all is the little bit I learned for doing a reading of Picasso at La Pianagel. I know nothing of French. I took Spanish in high school. Then that was a long time ago, and I don't remember any of it. So my teacher showed us Raiders of the Lost Ark dubbed in Spanish, which the voice choices there were interesting. But we talked about that a little bit offline. But yeah, I don't know any French, so it was all new to me. But French and Spanish are somewhat related to each other.
It's a romance language.
Yeah, they got a little bit different vowel structure and stuff, but you can kind of get the basic idea. The cool thing I love about these is there was a part of this where my subtitles wouldn't line up right, so I just had to kind of watch and figure out what was going on, and I mostly could still follow it because thankfully the director would shoot them talking about whatever it was that was happening in the room, so it wasn't hard to figure out, oh, they're talking about that kid that's said something funny and got all the other kids riled up or whatever. So it worked out okay.
Yeah, a little bit heavy-handed on some of that, but it's, like you said, it helps. And I think perhaps he was targeting the international audience. He wanted to be able to sell this and have it work elsewhere. So he made it work in any way that he could, making some things really obvious, some things maybe not so, but like you said, you get the idea of what's going on. The tone and the inflection of the French, and I took 3 years of French 25 years ago. So I remember all the bad stuff and nothing of the good stuff. Because, of course, my first French teacher gave me a book that was called Merde, the French you never learned in high school, which was perfect. That's all I ever wanted to learn was the bad words. I was just a dumb kid. What can I say? So going back and watching this, I don't think I picked up on any of the French. It's just so far out of my memory at this point. But and there were moments where I'm like, oh man, I was thinking of Eddie Izzard, who's like, oh, they're, French, whatever. So just trying to go along and be like, why did they make that choice? Okay. I think, we haven't quite gotten into it, but even the very opening of the film, when there's a car moving through there and there's a little paper boat in a puddle, I don't know that I quite understood what they were going for there, and I started to think, did I make a bad decision to watch this movie?
oh no, I've got words about that scene, man. There's symbolism all over this. I think we've got a director that is dialing it in and laying it on heavy. And you're right about one thing. This not only had international acclaim, it had a lot of success. Box office receipts are not what they are nowadays back then, but from all accounts, this was wildly successful, even here in America, when people didn't speak French and you didn't have subtitles in 1955 and 1956. But what you did have is you had a lot of people who had immigrated here post World War II, who were at least partial speakers, native speakers. You had a lot of soldiers who had married French women, brought them over here. You had a little bit of the culture influencing. So there was some baseline for it to have lasted this long. Because this could have been a movie that came out, made a hit, and just went away. And it hasn't. I mean, this movie is, as we're recording this, 65 years old. Almost everyone involved in it is dead, and long gone. But it still has a resonating factor. So I'm curious to dig into why it lasts so long and what about it works.
And why the American remake? I mean, when was the Sharon Stone version done?
1996, right in the middle of the I'm telling you, man, there was a sweet spot from about 84 to 99 when we were doing all of it. Nowadays that kind of thing would be made into well, for a long time they got made into Lifetime movies, and then Lord. They got a little bit of budget and they started getting made into like event films for like Hulu and Amazon and Netflix, and that's who makes that now, or they turn them into television shows and their series.
True, or
now.
cable,
right? Yeah, cable. Yeah, that kind of stuff is where you'll make this story for the big screen anymore, which is sad because I miss the adult drama. Nobody puts any money behind them anymore, so you don't get to see them. But it is very much made for an audience and a time when that's who went to see these things. The kids would go see the cliffhanger somewhere, and Flash Gordon, and then mom and dad for a nickel got to see this. So, which you can see why they wouldn't want to get into it. Well, I think we belabored it enough, though, Chris. Let's get into the plot summary. Please tell folks what this movie's about.
Sure thing. So, Les Diaboliques is set primarily at a second-rate boarding school on the outskirts of Paris, France, which happens to be owned by Madame Christina de la Salle. And it's run with an iron fist by her husband, who I think they've only been married for a few short years. His name is Michel. Now, Christina, she's a meek young woman with a considerable bank account, a weak heart, and a desire to escape from the life in which she has found herself. While Michel is a brutish, abusive, domineering spendthrift that seems to enjoy punishing her and the students as well as the staff that he oversees. Now, of course, he's also been having an open affair with another teacher, the chain-smoking bombshell, Nicole Orner, whom he has also abused. And it's this behavior that drives Christina and Nicole to forge an alliance against him, ultimately resulting in a devious plan to free themselves from his tyranny. Now, while on a short holiday from the school, Christina accompanies Nicole to her home in western France, where they put their plan in motion. Encouraged by Nicole and emboldened by the distance one can only assume, Christina demands a divorce from Michel, causing him to run after them to western France, where they proceed to poison his drink and drown him in the tub. In order to cover their tracks, they transport his body back to the school and dump him into the swimming pool by moonlight, hoping his death will be taken for a drunken accident while the women were on holiday. But the body? It never turns up. Now, as Christina's paranoia increases and her courage fades, she and Nicole verbally spar with each other and have a falling out. When news of a body turning up seems to offer Christina some relief, she's horrified to learn that the body is not Michel's. Now here we enter retired police commissioner and private detective Alfred Fichet, who offers to investigate Michel's disappearance. Of course, while under interrogation, Christina falls ill, and her paranoia intensifies as a young student recalls getting in trouble for breaking windows at the school with his slingshot, which Michel then took away from him. Impossible, they all say, because nobody has seen the headmaster for days. And one evening, Noises in the residence of the school wake Christina from a fever dream, and she goes in search of the source, creeping through the darkened rooms, gasping for air. In the bathroom, she finds Michel's body submerged in the tub, just as it had been in Western France the night he was killed. Her weak heart, driven to its limit, finally gives out when Michel slowly rises from the tub as if from the grave. As he and Nicole reunite to celebrate their good fortune, Fichet appears from the shadows, catching them in the act. And then in the final scene, we see that same young boy shooting out the school windows of the now closing school with his trusty slingshot, which he swears was given back to him by Madame de la Salle, as credits roll.
I mean, like, the hair is sticking up on the back of my neck as you read that right there. Great reading, by the way. Great plot summary.
Hey,
there.
Cheers.
And you give it the kind of gravitas that it needs, because this is one of those dun 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 kind of movies. You know, it doesn't have that score, but it has so many of those moments to it. And that's what I mean when I'm so glad for years, again, people telling me like, oh, you need to check that one out sometime. It's the boilerplate for all you know of. And you look back at it, you're like, holy cow, it really is. Like, there's so many things that this movie does. You can see why Hitchcock was obsessed with it.
Oh, definitely.
He's like, well, I'm doing that 8 more times.
Yeah, I'd really love to get my hands on a translated version of the book, the source material for this, because we all know movies are always 95, 90 to 99% always better than the movies that turn out of them, because it's hard to get everything from the page onto the screen. But this one, I mean, again, just so many great twists and turns and things going on. And I know for certain there's a big chunk of the book that was excised from the film, likely due to censorship, due to, the times, and, because there's a relationship between the two girls, which I think would be fascinating to get eyes on and to figure out. They allude to it a little bit in the movie with little itty bitty lines that are mentioned here and there. But if you're not clued into that, I think you miss it.
I think you're onto something there. It's something they kind of still sort of blush across in the 1996 remake, because you've got Sharon Stone. You've already kind of done that.
Basic Instinct
with her. Yeah, exactly. You've already kind of and every other movie she made there.
Oh no, that's Rebecca De Mornay. I'm thinking Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Oh wow, yeah. There's another one, right? But this one, like I will say right now, it's been 24 years since they did the remake. I don't know why they haven't come around to it again, particularly Hollywood. I mean, it is recycle land, and once we get out of COVID hell that we are in and we start producing stuff again, well, let's hope we have a lot of original material sitting around, or we got a lot of stuff we can get hands on quick and start making movies of. And this is one you could definitely take a look at. Let's get into our characters here, though, because I do find it fascinating, and we'll talk about our 2 female leads here, because I think Christina and Nicole are the centerpieces of this whole movie. And I can't say enough about how just taken I was with these 2 actresses. I don't know either of them from anything, have no reason to. But I look at them, I'm like, I know why you would cast Sharon Stone to play Simone Signoret, 40 years later. And Vera Clouseau has she has this kind of Judy Garland, Vivian Leigh wholesomeness to her, but there's also like a darkness on the edge there. Like, they doll her up and make her kind of schoolgirly, but when she pulls her hair down and she's wearing like the sexy negligee at night and stuff, she's the one that you realize there's a lot more going underneath than what she's playing.
Oh, definitely. And it's interesting with Simone Signoret playing Nicole. And then you think, again, as you were mentioning, I mean, Sharon Stone and Simone Signoret, you put them side by side and they look very similar, and they have just this smoking hot attitude. They're very strong women, and they play strong characters. And I'm right there with you. With having her cast in this film, Simone Signoret, she is so incredibly strong, and they foil off of each other. They play off of each other so well. And I know there's more interesting trivia behind this, in the fact that it was a very tense set. With Vera Clouseau is the wife of the director, and when things weren't going well on set, she was the devil's advocate. She was actually the one that would either stir the pot or just walk away. And I think a lot of that plays in the movie. Like, it really fed into how their characters interacted with each other and the real emotion that you can feel on screen between the two. And
yeah, can I tell you, I'm so glad of that, though, too, because the end result is worth it. Like, if you're not creating the tension through your acting, you got to find some other way to tap into the emotions, right? So you got to have somebody there that is willing to just go like, I don't know, and just start messing with everybody, and particularly start poking the bear of the person you're spending the most time with in scenes. And you talk about chemistry with couples on screens and things, and I'm not even talking about like relationship type chemistry. I just mean like character chemistry. These two are beyond the yin and yang. I mean, they really are codependents in a lot of ways. And they're both victims of abusive relationships. One of them, though, is much more manipulative than the other, though maybe the other one is more manipulative, the way it's played. You don't know, like that whole paper boat thing or whatever.
Yeah.
I take that totally as a, do not be fooled by the size of things in the pool that they are in. Okay. Because the smallest person in this movie, not the kids, but the smallest adult in this movie is Christina. But in the end, she may have been the most devilish of them all, if we will. Because, think about it from this point. Her whole thing is, I want to sell this damn school. I want to be rid of you. I want to be rid of all these people. And I just want to go to Venezuela.
I want to go home.
Yeah, I want to go home. I want to get away. I don't want to be here anymore. How am I going to get out from under all this? Well, I could just sell it all and go through the courts, or I can just be completely evil and get people to go along with what they want to do anyway. So my husband's lover and her can conspire, and I'll conspire with her, and we'll have this whole, oh, is he dead? Is he not? And I'll play the shrinking violet or whatever, and then I'll just look like I dropped dead, and then they'll sell the school. I'll walk away, and we'll all be gone, and you'll go to jail. Or maybe I'm really in the shrinking violet and I'm totally preyed upon by these two evil people. You can read it either way. And I think that's what makes Clouseau's performance so outstanding to me, is you can watch this movie, and I watched it twice for this review. You watch it once and you go like, oh, you poor thing. And then the other time you're like, you evil, manipulative Satan girl.
No, she's fantastic. And, it does make sense, if you're using that kind of iconography with the boat, and don't let size fool you. It's also how fragile the boat is, because the car runs it over. It's floating in this little pool outside of this, decrepit school, and the car just blows through it. And from the very beginning, that's how Vera is presented. She's not even your traditional jilted wife, right?
No.
Because she has not only a working relationship with Nicole, who is having an affair with her husband openly, but she's friendly with her to the point that Nicole is protecting her, saying, oh, you poor dear, you're very sick, you're very frail, you have a weak heart, let's take care of you. You shouldn't go outside and, have to monitor the kids at recess. You should be inside. It's good. It's okay. And it just kind of, it sets it up from the very beginning. Because I remember sitting there thinking, my gosh, how can someone be friends with a person that is absolutely betraying you day in and day out? And you're like, whatever, if you want to protect me, that's cool. I'm okay with that.
There's one of two ways. Either she really is that weak of a constitution, or she's very, very intelligent and realizes means to an end is sometimes worth it.
Yeah.
You can play it both ways.
She's holding her cards close, and I can see how it would be fun, and maybe I need to do that after this, is go back and watch it that second time with that eye towards, no, she's really the manipulative one. She's the dangerous one that you got to watch out for, because from the very beginning, she's got something up her sleeve that she's not letting anybody on to. And the fact that as just the casual viewer, like you said, that first time through, you're like, oh, you poor thing. Oh my goodness, your life sucks. You're stuck in this boarding school with all these men. And, again, I mentioned that in the summary, he's a spendthrift. The guy, when he's buying food for the kids and for the staff, he's buying like rotting vegetables and just the worst, because he's like, I bought the fish because it was on sale. And you think about back then, you're going to a fishmonger. You're not going out to the supermarket with things been on ice and whatnot. This is food that has to sell you only discount it for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And there's nobody wants to buy it, and he's bringing that back to the school for everybody. I mean, he is such like a skinflint. One of the teachers asked him, it is France. Can I have a second glass of wine, or can I have another glass of wine with my lunch? And the guy's like, you already had two. And you can see it in that character's eyes when he's like, no. I've only had one. I've only had one. Please, sir, may I have some more?
Yeah. Very much. Well, yeah, you bring up Paul Morisi as Michelle here. He is such a bastard, in every possible way. Like, he really is. And I probably in no more scenes than when he's standing there and Christina is he's come to them in Western France, and he's like, I'm not going to give you a divorce. I'm going to keep doing what I want to do. Pour me my Johnny Walker Red. And he slaps her across the face, And she just, at one point, you could read it, it's like she's thinking about, I don't want to poison him. What am I doing? And then he hits her, and she's like, oh yeah, here, have another.
Yeah.
Have 2 or 3. And he's just downing them. But what I love about it is he plays this, because what once you know the secret, you know it, right? He's got to play this off right. He plays it so well, like, what is happening to me? What is going on? And he just sort of loses out, and he allows himself to be drug around and drown and all this other shit. And to not break in that, you talk about having to have concentration and make that work. It makes you realize just how deep and dark and empty this person is. I mean, he is such a selfish, manipulative jerk from the get-go. There's absolutely nothing redeemable about him. At no point do you even feel like Nicole has roped him into this. This is his idea all along. You can feel it.
Well, yeah, the first things that you learn about him, you see him and he's like, what are you doing inside? And he's talking to Christina. Why are you here? You're supposed to be out with the kids. And Nicole is being protective of her, saying, no, she's frail and she's sick. But Nicole's wearing sunglasses. And why, there's only 2 reasons anybody's going to wear sunglasses inside of a building during the day. Either one, they're hungover as hell, right? Eyes bloodshot, mouth dry, they can't do anything. Or number 2, which is in her case, she's got a nice shiner going on her face because he's been beaten into her. And Christina even asked her, Michelle? Yeah, it was him again. This is what he does. And so I really love that you're digging into the secret of it's out of the bag, how well they play that off. Because, of course, Nicole, the same way. The fact that she is able to convince this good Catholic girl, come to my house, because I think she's the mastermind, right, of the plot, at least so far as the audience is concerned at that point, because she is the one egging her on. Come to my house, we're going to make a phone call, and you're going to demand divorce. You're going to demand it. And you can see Nicole doesn't want to do that. That's against her religion. It's one of the ultimate sins of Catholicism, especially at that time. There's no divorce. But on top of that, it's like, so divorce, I'm going to threaten you with divorce to get you down here so I can kill you.
Exactly.
Come on down.
Yeah. I don't want to get a divorce that goes against the church, but if I whack you,
right?
maybe that's okay.
Because what's the worst evil, right? You're a wife beater or you're a dead man.
Right. Yeah, exactly, right. It's those splitting of hairs that makes it interesting. The thing I love about Nicole's character too is how in charge she is, or seems to be, of everything she's doing. She is out front. She's a chain smoker. She is ruthless grading some papers, I'm gonna tell you. She's just like, no, F, gone. She's just.
How can you be doing that right now?
Yeah.
What else am I gonna do?
Yeah,
fail,
right.
you fail.
Yeah, he's dead. What am I supposed to do? Wait on him? But that's the other thing, too, is you watch it back and you're like, oh, she knows. Because that's another reason she can play it so cool. But she would have played it cool anyway if she thought this was real. You just kind of get that from her. She's got so much power. And I wasn't alive during there, but I'm trying to think, in 1955, that had to blow people's minds.
Right.
To see a woman do that on the screen. And then I think 5 years later to see Janet Leigh do the things she does at the beginning of Psycho, that blew people's minds to see somebody think and talk and act like that.
And incredible. I mean, I'm taking charge of my own fate. I'm tired of this shit. I've had enough. You know what? Mm-hmm. We've had enough. Let's get him and get down to brass tacks and do that. And the fact that, maybe I got pulled away by my phone, but as they're setting up the plot, Like, how devious is that? We're gonna take the school van together and drive out to my flat in Western France. Then we're gonna lure him out here. We're gonna kill him, put him in the tub. We're actually poison him. They knock him out. They sedate him. Yeah. Put him in the tub and drown him. And she's already thought, all right, I need to get a shower curtain because he's going to be wet, and I want to make sure he's not dripping everywhere. I've got this big, old, huge wicker traveling case that we're going to toss his body in. And on top of all that, the upstairs neighbors. Like, and how great was all of that? If I lived above any plumbing that sounded like that, I would be just like that guy.
Exactly. I was watching that, and in my head, I'm like, this guy thinks he's in a Marx Brothers movie. And it is awesome.
It's way over the top.
Yeah, but I loved it, though, because for the time, I'm like, that would be like the relief.
Yeah.
Against what these people are doing, you have this ridiculousness going on around you. And I think there's also, like, you've got a story motif there, too, of everybody gets caught up in their own drama, and they don't pay attention to all the other things that are happening around them. Because that wasn't like that was, they knew he had come. They didn't know where he was going. They thought he just left in the night, all that stuff. And it just gets dismissed because these two little women can never do anything harmful to him. And when inside, they are. That's the other read, too. If you watch this again and you watch it with the Christina is behind all of it, man, you see like, wow, she's really good. Because the one thing she's got on Nicole, which it's not putting Nicole down, Christina is smarter. Like, she may not be as ruthless, or at least she doesn't come off as, but she is smarter. And she takes time to think, as Nicole just shoots and then asks questions, She's one of those. And I dig that, and I dig thinking through that in this scene, because you've got Nicole and this man trying to drag this thing down. And boy, I'll tell you what, Michelle's taking him for a beating. He's like, oh, yeah, you get the neighbor to be compliant in your murder plot. But he's sitting there in that case just being drug around. Maybe he's like, look, I'm going to take a really good sedative because I don't want to be here when you throw me down the stairs. Right? But I loved it, though. I loved that the car they put him in, he kind of lists over to the left because he's too heavy. And they're like, well, that's a lot of dishes you got in there. Yeah, they're really old. They're heavy. So, but that's the thing is, you hear somebody say like, oh, I've come to get my dishes. I'm like, you must have wrapped those like awesome, because they didn't clang at all. I'm impressed. You come help me pack. I got to move.
Can you soundproof the rest of the apartment, please?
Yes.
And I think that's where I kind of laughed as well, because thinking back, wait, the upstairs neighbor who is complicit because he helps, but when he is having a fit, and he's yelling because the pipes are just ungodly loud and banging on the floor. It's 10 o'clock at night. How can you do this to me? Is her tenant. And I think that is as much, a sign of the times. It's 1955. She owns the building. He doesn't give a shit. He's like, I'm paying you rent and you're being loud. I'm going to bang on you. You know what? Hey, I'm going to call and complain about you. Which I don't think he ever does, because that was the one thing where watching it this time through, with a fresh set of eyes, was like, ooh, when he calls it in, then it's all going to go to hell right there. It's going to fall apart. But not at all. They get the body in the truck, in the school van, and take it back, and halfway along the way, they've got to stop and get some gas, where a drunken sailor or a drunken Marine, whatever he was, is like, I just want to ride I need a ride. I'm going to just put myself in your truck.
Right. But I love the tension of that, because there's always something that happens right in the murder plot when people are trying to get away with it. It's the completely and not a part of the story person that's going to screw this up for you.
Yes.
It's like, no, do not. Tarantino does this a lot. Like, he likes to mess with this a lot. Just the random character walks in and it's like, you need to get out of this store, sir. I mean, I think about Michael Parks, the beginning of From Dusk Till Dawn. That this whole scene plays like the tension in this scene. It really does. And look, Tarantino, this is his kind of thing. He's seen this a million times, so he's probably got a print of it at his house. So I mean,
probably does.
I mean, really, this is his kind of movie, and I'm watching that. But that's what I'm enjoying, is when you watch something that's been around this long and is still remembered. There's a reason for it, and the reason is because it gets paid homage to in so many other things. And I love sort of going like, man, you can pull that out of a Western vampire movie, and now it's in this Hitchcock movie, and it's in this Bad Lifetime movie, and it's this thing over here, and all of it still works because what you realize is that the source of it is good. And the thing I wanted to say that I think this movie borrows from is a movie from 1944, Gaslight. Because it's a different twist on the Gaslight theme, but in one way or another, either Nicole and Michelle are gaslighting Christina, or she's gaslighting both of them, and you can play it either way.
Man, I haven't seen that. I'm going to have to pull that one out and give it a watch, because I think I've reignited something, a desire for these types of films. I mean, I love a thriller. I love a good twist. I think maybe I got burnt out because of my M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, that'll do it. No.
I started watching Robot Chicken instead. What a twist!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you gotta cleanse the palate. But I'm a big fan of good neo noir like that, and it's in all of that stuff, and it can be played for laughs too. Like His Girl Friday's a hilarious version of the same thing. It's just all kind of a joke, right? But you watch something like Gaslight, you go watch The Maltese Falcon, even Casablanca, which everybody remembers for the love story in it, but there's a good mystery to that too, and a lot of wartime stuff. There's lots of things going on in those movies, and that's one of the things that I think makes them last, is because their influence isn't just on the things that they are like, but on all the other things that want to borrow from those elements, and that's what makes them cool, right?
Yeah, everything that comes after. That's like, I saw this movie once, while I was studying cinema. There's something in there I can borrow. I can make this work. Yeah. They can build a whole movie off of it. Because I start thinking about Sunset Boulevard might even have some elements of this in there as well. And it's another, famous black and white noir film with a good mystery and a nice, slight little twist to it.
I mean, you mentioned Shyamalan earlier, the kid in Sixth Sense, Haley Joel Osment. The little precocious window breaking kid here.
Right.
I mean, really, nobody wants to believe me, but he's not lying.
Not at all.
But you learn that's why it's such a great twist at the end. Is he didn't lie the first time. I mean, he had no reason to. He doesn't have one now.
And he's so scared of the headmaster that when he's told, go stand in a corner.
Yeah, they're closing the school down, and he still puts him in timeout.
Right.
That's how scared he is. The
kid's like, all right, whatever, man. I'll go stand in a corner. I'm not lying, though. I saw it.
Yeah, we should talk about those other characters before we get to the private detective. Is the school is just littered with all these just straight out of I need a portly night watchman, and I need a sort of in over his head young teacher who's definitely going to be on unemployment soon, and I need another guy who desperately wants to be the headmaster, but he's not. And you throw them all in, and you have sort of the break from the main plot to watch these people try to run this school. When you have a stern taskmaster and then that person leaves, what was always the joke about the substitute teacher? It's like, whoosh, you can take a break,
get away with
right?
anything I want now.
And that is kind of what happens at the school when Michelle steps away. I mean, the kids are unruly. There's all kinds of stuff. And even the staff are like, I don't know, I'm having that third glass of wine at lunch. What do I get?
And the good wine, too. Because
exactly.
he not only is he's disappeared, but, they saw him sneak off. Because Michelle even says that, I had to run away from the school in the night like a thief, to come down here. I mean, who ever heard of such a thing? A woman telling her husband she wants a divorce. No. And I think it also sets it up and gives you a great opportunity to suspect someone else, right? It's another piece in these films as well. We've got, the outsider who might blow it. And then you have these little side characters that they give you just enough reason to doubt what you think is going on. You're like, well, come on. Because when the body isn't found, the first place that you start thinking is, all right, who was it? Which of these three guys at the school was it? Is it Plantivaux, who is, the night watchman that also kind of watches out and does the cleaning around it? Or is it one of the two professors, the younger one or the older one, who just wants a nice bottle of wine? I mean, if you're dealing with a bunch of rowdy kids, it's nice to have a drink, and it's just such a fun way to play on the audience and to play their emotions and start making them jump around being like, all right, what the hell's going on here?
Well, and you watch these two lead female characters use all of those people for their own means.
Yes.
At different things. I mean, they dump his body in that murky pool at night. And then the whole thing is the next morning, like, I couldn't sleep at all. I just am waiting. And they're like, they open up the doors, and this is where you can start maybe kind of lean that there's something in that relationship that we're not talking about in this movie because it's 1955. They're not like dressed for work.
No.
They're getting up. Maybe they just hung out together. I'm not trying to, turn this into something that's not, but I do think that's there. I do think that there is on some level, I've talked about them being codependent. They have a relationship with each other on some level. And I think you could read into it that like, hey, maybe they spent the night together after that just to calm each other down. Never know.
I wonder, did Christina let that out of the bag in Western France in Nicole's flat when Michelle is asking, we got to leave here. We can't stay here. I can't sleep here tonight. This is your bed or whatever. She says, no, it's our bed. And I think she's alluding to it's hers and Nicole's. And then later, after they get back to the school, you see them in that insane bedroom. All that woodwork back there. I mean, at first it was kind of like, what on earth is that? I don't think I want people to be able to walk past my bed and look in over the top of like the headboard. Because it does seem to be a shared hallway, but absolutely gorgeous in that decrepit school. It's almost like this blocky, no, I wouldn't quite call it a castle, but it has that feeling, maybe a dungeon, more appropriate for a boarding school. And then they have this beautiful room that the two lead actresses have obviously spent the night in and are opening those, as you said, opening the windows, looking out on the scene to see if anything has changed into that nasty water.
I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. You have the main keep, and then you have the side keep for like the people that work for you at the house, right? That's kind of what this looks like. It's sort of like the side house. It's not the nice one, but it's okay. It's got its thing, but it is run down. It is kind of second rate. They all talk about that. They can even make a joke that like it's not like we work at the greatest
nice
university
school
in the world. Yeah, we're not at the nice school, right? Yeah, they don't talk about it like that. I'm like, I understand that because like my high school was considered like that school where I went to high school, and it wasn't bad. At least it wasn't to me, but compared to the other high school in the city, which was maybe 6 miles from us, I mean, theirs was nicer because it was built, 20 years later than ours, and it, you can notice it. But I can appreciate that. But you're right about something in that room, though. It's a clue, too. Is we talk about Michelle being such a spendthrift, and Christina's always talking about how she takes care of everything or whatever. Well, the first thing she took care of was her own lodging. Like her stuff is nice. It's like, you know what? I may live in a 1-bedroom apartment, but I've got some nice furniture in here.
Seriously.
Some really good pieces. Me and Broyhill are on like a first name basis now. Like we've got some good stuff here. But she does. And they open that up in the morning, the shutter's there. And the first thing she wants to see is like, where's the body fluid? And it's not there. And then it goes throughout the day. She's trying to teach the children like conjugation, and you're doing that repeat. Now, I was going to ask you, like, did that remind you of French class? Because that's what my Spanish classes were like.
Definitely. I mean, there was a part of me sitting there listening to it going, is she teaching them English?
Yeah, I think so.
Like she was teaching them, past, present tenses. And I was sitting there going, wait a minute, but wait, the hell is going on her dais? Which I think is really, really incredible. And maybe that's just me showing my ignorance of not having any insight into what this type of education would look like. But and she's also a diminutive lady. And she walked into that class that morning. She had to take a couple steps up onto a dais where her desk was. And she's like, all right, shut up, kids, let's go. And you saw a little bit of the attitude from her changing, where she was a little more clipped and severe, which we hadn't really seen to that point.
Oh, absolutely. And you see, though, that even though she is diminutive, even though she is, like, when she walks in the room, there's respect.
Yeah.
Immediately. Everyone else, it's like we're getting away with it right up until the second they come in, and then they have to be calmed down. Every other teacher, even Nicole, who's so brash and out there. Christina walks in, and it's like, like my Spanish teacher was another short little woman from Mexico City. But you didn't cross Mrs. Johnson because she would cut you. like just with her eyes, like she could just bring you down. Like, no,
wasn't me.
No sir, Mr. Skipworth. Like she could bring you down. But I appreciated that, but because that kind of person that commands respect, and it's beyond what they look like. But the students are following right along. She's going along, and she keeps looking out that window, and she takes that deep breath. And then nothing.
Well, right, because what is it? Platino, it goes over there with some type of hook and starts digging around in there. And at that point, she's expecting, all right, we're going to get him. And he just pulls out a little bit of trash and sets it down on the ground and moves on.
She's like, oh. And then she's going on and on about it in the schoolyard later on. She's like, I have to know. We have to drain the pool. And so they come up with the thing where, Nicole tosses her keys. They're short. And the kid decides, I'm going to be Aquaman and dive in, or whatever, and get it. And he comes up with Michelle's lighter, and they're like, oh no, but where's the rest of him?
Right.
Did you not see anything else down there? I don't know. It's kind of murky down there, lady. And they send everybody off, and then they're begging, like, would you please drain the pool? But it's not time to drain the pool.
It's going to take an hour at least to drain the pool. Yeah. I got stuff I got to do, lady. I got a job.
Yeah. But I love it. She's like, would you just do it for me? And he's like, yeah.
Of course. Well, and what was the deal? It was before they decided to drain the pool when she passes out. Like her tension is so high, after that he's digging in there, she runs over there and looks down. Oh, and it's because she doesn't see anything, I'm assuming, and just passes out there next to the pool. And like, oh, she must be sick. Let's go take care of her. And I think that's the cool thing with the showing the respect is I don't think it is only to do with who she is as the owner of the school or the wife of the headmaster, but they know that her husband has been missing for days, and she's not taking it well. And they're like, everybody, quiet. Let's
and
nice.
And they know she's got a bad heart. They're taking all this pity on her, and that's why I say you read this one of two ways. Either all of that is exactly what it says, or she is going, what cards do I have in my hand that I can really play?
Let's speed this along.
I can play that, and people will just go with it and make it work. Very Kaiser says,
yes.
Not to spoil that, which we reviewed that movie years ago. If you hadn't seen it by now, I'm sorry.
It's been out for a while.
Yeah. Kevin Spacey plays that one way, and then all of a sudden the foot strings.
Yeah, Verbal Kent.
Like, oh my, yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
So, by the way, same kind of lighter as in this movie. Just put it out there. McCoy's also a fan. He's mentioned it, so just put it out there. Probably a complete prop, like synchronicity, but would be fun nod if you want to think about it like that. But I do love that, and that's at this point when the two women now get at each other's throats. Like the relationship breaks down because Christina's ready to go to the police. Like, we've got to confess. I can't live with this. Good Catholic girl again. I can't live with this. I can't do anything with this. I can't go on like this. And Nicole's like, whatever, he's dead. And I did get a little laugh. You talk about far-reaching, threads into movies that this is not. 9 to 5 in 1980, where the Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton and Jane Fonda think they've killed Dabney Coleman.
Yes,
but they haven't. It's the same kind of drama, though. It really is between those three women. Is happening between these two, and it's played for laughs there, but here it's played for tension. But I was watching it, and even again being in a different language, I'm going 9 to 5. It's the same.
I've seen this before.
Yes, it's the same stuff, between Lily Tomlin freaking out about, I'm going to be, thrown in jail forever. My kids are going to go to jail, all this stuff. And Dolly Parton is like, would you just shut up?
Stop talking. Here, smoke this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's, you can see it play that way. And I think that's kind of neat that has threads in that. But I did love it when their relationship started to deteriorate, how the two actresses played it. I thought they really did a good job of portraying just this I'm sick of your crap too attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it works so well. And I think when you get Christina after that, she's like, all right, I'm done with you. I'm so done with you. Look, here's a newspaper. And Nicole even shows it to her. Hey, you take it easy. All right. I'm sick of hearing you talk about, we got to tell the cops. You don't. They found a dead body. They found a naked male body in the Seine. Done and done. We're home free. And then that's when Christina makes a terrible mistake. She runs to the morgue. I need to go identify this body. Haven't reported him missing to the police. Haven't done any of the steps that, you would normally do. Oh, my husband has been gone for how long? I should probably tell somebody. No. I'm going to go see this dead body. And I think they played that scene so well too with, what would he be? The medical examiner, I guess is what he would be.
Yes.
It's saying, all right, I need more than a name, lady. I need more than your ID. You need to tell me, like, identify the body before you see it. What kind of marks does he have on his body? And how fun it is that he kind of plays with her a little bit there and trying to lead her into making a mistake. You know, does he, what about up on his upper thigh? Is there a beauty mark there? Just like, no.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to ask you about that was, has Fichette gotten there ahead of time and it's like sniffing out a lead? Like, if somebody's wanting to verify this guy's dead, they might show up at the morgue to identify him. So let me make sure that the medical examiner helps me vet some of this out along the way. I don't know how you read it, but I kind of wondered. I'm like, he seems like the kind of guy that would be sneaking around in the corner that would pull something off like that. I don't know.
Well, and that was one of the things while watching, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? Obviously, he's a cop or he's a PI. He's doing something there. Why is he there? Mm-hmm. And, again, trying to watch it, not even trying. I was watching it completely from the idea that Christina, and even though I've seen this movie, how terrible is that? That she's the innocent party here. And he's there because someone else, not even necessarily Nicole, but a family member has said he's been missing. I suspect his wife did something. Like, they've had a crap marriage for the 3 or 4 years that they've been married, and they sent Fichet. They hired him and put him in play. And so he's sitting there just waiting for, and what a, how fortunate for him that he just happened to be sitting there that day. Or did they place the article in the paper on purpose to lure the killers out?
See, I did the whole Law and Order thing. Like, they put that in the paper. Like that. Yeah, that is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is a total. Let's put that in the paper and see who it draws out. Well, and you think about that. I'm like, that's a Thomas Harris thing.
Yeah.
They do that in 2 of the Hannibal Lecter
Great
things,
books.
especially Red Dragon. And I'm like, yeah, you throw that out there to see what kind of fish you can catch on that bait. And cops do that. That is a real thing. I mean, that's not. I learned that in journalism school. You get good stuff from the cops because they're wanting your help to vet people out, because a lot of criminals, not all of them, love their own press.
Yeah,
and just can't stay away. Right? Like you look around at the scene of a crime to say, like, who doesn't belong here? Or maybe who is really, really too interested in being here right now and not just rubbernecking what's happening on the side of the road, right? Like that, that's an investigative technique. I don't know about you. I kind of got a whole like Detective Kinderman from The Exorcist thing off this dude. I don't know that that's what that guy was going for in The Exorcist, but it's just where my brain went when I saw him. I was like, yes, it's you. And you're also the doctor at the end of Psycho that over-explains everything
good Lord.
to the audience. He's Arbogast.
Columbo as well. He's kind of fumbling along.
You know what? Columbo. Yeah, it's just like, excuse me, Dr. Veskig, but we know it was your wife. Or
just
whatever.
one more thing.
Yes, take out your glass eyeball contact lenses before you get faked around yourself.
My God, how horrible that must
That's
have been.
the other thing, too, with Michelle with the eyes rolled back. I mean, I thought, like, man, if that guy's doing that, good on him. And then when he takes the things out at the end, it's like, what a horror scene in 1955.
Right, those things are hard, like hard plastic. And he just kind of rolls them out of his eye. It's, oh my gosh.
I'm like, I can't do contact lenses anyway, but I'm like, especially watching that, I was like, I told my wife, it's like, that's why I can't
touch my eyes.
contacts.
Don't touch my eyes.
Yes.
I don't want to touch my eyes.
Yeah, I cannot. No, I cannot deal with it. But no, back to Fichette. I love the way he questions these 2 women, and particularly questions Christina when he's back at the school with her. He's not laying into her. He's not giving her too much. He's just sort of subtly letting her tie her own knot. And I'm like, man, whoever this guy is, Charles Bernal did a really good job of studying how detectives work.
While going through her stuff too, right? I mean, like he took that photo.
Yeah, they just wear you down. Yeah, they just wear you down over time, right? And then he does the creepy thing where he just shows up in the middle of the night while she's sleeping half naked and is lighting a cigarette.
What the hell are you doing here?
Like, well, okay. Yeah, that was a little.
When he tells her at that point, he's like, no, because she confesses, right? At that stage, in the middle of the night, she's already stressed out and gets sick during the initial interrogation there at the school. And Nicole again says that you got to kind of let her alone, man. She needs some rest. Can't you see she's weak? And then after he pulls that lovely creepazoid move of showing up in the middle of the night and she wakes from a dream and he's sitting there, she confesses everything to him because she's just at that point. You get the feeling she's had enough. I'm done. Like, you're never going to find him. He's dead. I don't know where the body is. He's all gone. And he's like, no, I think you'll find tomorrow that you are wrong. and you will feel much better.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, what does he know? Like, has he already figured out that it was Nicole and Michelle?
Well, he
involved?
said
like,
that he had seen Michelle. He says, I found him. He's very much alive. You'll find tomorrow. He's closer than you know. You'll find tomorrow.
Wow, that is a great reveal in this.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And then what happens the next night, though, is the best. Like, you talk about, like, we've built up to the crescendo now, and the thing knocking around in the dark literally is the thing you dreaded the most. She runs to the bathroom, and there he is in the tub. And again, this movie doesn't have the kind of music that it would normally have had if it was made 10 years later even. But, I mean, it is the sting of the stuff, and I mean, maybe that's the thing that, like,
sets it
when
apart.
You think about the mother reveal at the end of Psycho with those, like, there's that silence and then it's dun 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 on those strings. I mean, it's there to shock you, and it's almost like you wish this movie had that little bit of score, because when he's coming up out of there, man, I'm going, that's some Vincent Price House of the Haunted Hill shit right there.
Oh man,
that is really
terrifying.
Creepy.
Absolutely terrifying, because he just kind of sits up like a mummy. Like I said, it's like he's rising from the dead, and his eyes are white and glazed over, and it's just this horrific scene. And finally her heart says, oh, fuck this, I'm done. And that's like the absolute worst acting in the film is her death scene.
When she dies.
Her death scene and her faint. It's just like, and give the lady some credit. Her third film ever, and her last film, if I remember correctly. Yeah. She was like, I am so done with this, and it's likely because of the tension that her husband built up on the set.
And tragically, a woman who died at 46 from a weak heart. Like, that is, I mean, it's like so weird and kind of ghoulish to think about, like, oh, you're playing out your own death 10 years before it happens. Yikes. But yeah, it is the worst acting in the movie.
It's so terrible. It's like a
and
flop.
What's funny is that it's juxtaposed to maybe some of the best acting in the movie, which is Paul Morrissey coming up out of that tub like that, because it is so. I mean, it's all of the creepy, you named it, Mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula moving forward at you. It's all of the things that would scare the hell out of somebody in 1955, and even here in 2021, it's still scary. Like, that is a scary look, and the bit of when he's pulling the eyes away, it's when you realize, like,
that's so foul.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not only that, but it's when you realize, like, oh my goodness, this son of a bitch has been in on this the whole time. And that's when you're like, and so has the blonde.
Yep.
And you're just waiting for her to come around the corner.
Running into the room.
And you're like, knew it, right? And so what I think is funny is he checks her arm, like halfway up her forearm for her pulse. I'm like, bad form, not good. But whatever. So I'm sure she's like, my husband is so stupid, he won't even know how to check my pulse when I'm dead. So I'll just let him go. And he walks out, and then, of course, they hook up in the hall, and creepy old Fichette comes out of the corner of the shadow going, excuse me, but you are guilty as hell, and a judge will give you 15 to 20 years, which was the subtitle. And I was like, that they must have done that for American audiences, because I don't think the French system
off with their heads.
Sure. yeah, right? Yeah.
No, it was great, and it's a lovely reveal. I mean, and again, I'm with you on the eyes, because that just, even watching it the other night here, 2020 folks, I can't handle that. I mean, and then being able to think about the fact that this is filmed in 1955, and that's got to be uncomfortable as hell, because those things look like hard plastic discs, and he just kind of twirls them out. And the second one, it takes a little bit of extra work, because it doesn't want to come out of his eye. And you're doing is sitting there cringing, like, oh, disgusting. And then you got some creepy old perv coming out of the shadows. It's like, I've been watching you this whole time. He's smoking his cigar, just waiting. Because again, that dude, he just waits. He waits at the morgue. He waits in the bedroom. He waits in the shadows of the dark hallway. And, hey, he got him. Fantastic. Movie over, right? That's it.
Right. Except we get a little coda on it. And this is the thing, like, I've read a lot about what people wrote about this movie. You're like, oh, the ending just kind of happens too fast. I'm like, no. You're watching this through your modern cinema glasses. in 1955, when you hit the big moment, you get out. Like, you're done. Like, you don't waste time. Like, this is not pop songs for 2.5 minutes, kids. We didn't do this, extended play shit. Like, you get in and out. But I love the coda of the school closing down, and you've got that little boy again shooting out another window because he hates the school. Clearly, he's like, well, hell, I'm leaving. What's
Take
the difference?
a few out while I go.
Yeah, might as well get another one while I can. And you get that same bit where he's like, but she gave it to me. Madame de la Salle did. And he's like, go stand in the corner with your foolish lies,
disrespectful.
boy. And I'm going...
And not disrespectful of the dead. Disrespectful because the school is closing.
Right. And I'm like, wow, but it leaves you thinking, you're like, this little boy never lied because he said he had seen him, right? And then what, they do the school picture right after, and he's
ghostly
that face
figure
is in the window. I'm like, man, you talk about like, this dude was like, no, when are they going to take that picture? Where do I need to stand? Like, you thought that out, like to work that out with the photographer ahead of time. And then for the little boy to kind of skulk off, and that's when it cuts, and you realize, like, is he telling the truth? Is he not? We don't know. It's the great mystery. That's what I ask you here at the end is Christina the ultimate mastermind to do all this to get Michelle and Nicole and to be able to get out from under that school?
I think so, because she had the money already. Like, she said, no, you're not taking care of the school. I'm taking care of the school. It's my money that you're spending. And I think returning the slingshot that Michelle had taken away from the boy as his kind of part of the setup to drive her mad is similar to his suit coming back from the dry cleaners all of a sudden after he's been dead. This is the suit that we drowned him in. This is the suit we dumped him in the pool in. What? How the hell did that come back? Like, clean from the dry cleaners. They're like, no, I don't know. Here, we were told to bring it back to you. Enjoy. And so she returns the favor with the slingshot. She's like, no, I'm still here. Okay. And she gets, she doesn't get the money from the school being sold, but I don't think she cares because, again, she has money. She just wanted to get rid of Michelle and Nicole and be done with it all and not have, the weight over her head of a divorce or murder.
Right. Which is amazing. When you talk about what a elaborate plot to get around.
And is it a double cross?
I guess.
It's just insane if you think about it, because she thought the man was dead. Like, we killed him. But no, I think Nicole is not going to go through with it because she's having an affair with the man. I'll play along. I'm going the long game here.
Well, exactly. Like, I've got this weak heart. And all this stuff. But there are a couple of times. There are a couple of times.
Like, literally like a dead fish. She flops onto the plaque.
I mean, yeah, she does the Bugs Bunny mother and just flips over at the end of it. But there are a couple of looks she gives. And it's like side-eye looks. And again, I only got this on the second time through, so it's worth going back and looking. But it's little side-eye looks when Nicole says something to her, or, Fichette says something and she's like, you figured it out. Like, she does this little, like, flicker, and it's just an acting thing, I think, where she's, like, revealing, like, you're very sly. I'm going to have to play this even slower than I thought, or I'm going to have to accelerate this plan. Like, she's clearly in control. I read it the same way. I think she's the Kaiser Soze the whole time. And this is her way to get out. Oh. And, she can't get a divorce because the only way you can get a divorce is if somebody's cheating on you. And in 1955, nobody's going to believe the woman over the man.
You have to admit it.
That's just,
and how, shameful is that?
Exactly. She's not going to do that, and she's clearly not going to kill him because she's not that. But, this other woman wants to think she's smarter than me, and she can get over with me, and she can get with my husband after they, knock me over because I have this weak heart or whatever. Okay, fine. I can play that game because he's a moron, and he's not going to check my pulse right anyway. And so,
grab me by the elbow.
I mean, he's an idiot. He swigs at Johnny Walker. He's like, this tastes different.
Give me more.
And I'm like, nope. You know anything about people that drink that kind of stuff? They're like, nope, we're not drinking that anymore.
It's gone bad. It's
like,
corked.
It's very hard. Yeah, it's hard to poison somebody when they can taste the strychnine. So she knows. I think she is in control the whole time, and that's the cool part of this story. Is that once you know it, you don't want to spoil it for anybody else because there's so many things you could spoil. But I think that's the most fun part of watching this is watch it now and go, okay, is she really the mastermind? Because I'll tell you, I watched it the second time looking for that, but at the end of it, I go, I don't know, maybe she wasn't. Like, I think you can go either way with it. It's not definitive, and that's what makes it so much fun, is you don't have to decide. But I think you and I are in agreement that she's definitely...
I mean, if she's not, I mean, how do you explain it? Is she really alive then? Or is she haunting the school grounds at that point?
Or is the little boy just telling a lie because kids do that when they get in trouble? That's also like true. Yeah, he's breaking the school windows anyway. What does he care? So I mean, yeah, that's the other part. Is like you could just read it for what it is. There are no ghosts because they play off this whole supernatural bit for, but that's kind of badly done. That's not that great. But you realize like, well, the boy has no reason to lie. Except that he's a kid and he just got in trouble, so maybe he would.
I didn't break in and steal it. No, the dead lady gave it to me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why not? It worked last time, sort of. So,
well, there's some interesting background on the film itself. You know, talk about building tension on the set, right? You've got Simone Signoret, who is an actress in demand. Mm-hmm. Obvious blunder in this one in that she didn't read her contract when she signed it. And the contract says you'll be paid for 8 weeks of work, regardless. The film took something like 16 weeks to film. And the director only paid her for 8 weeks. Like, to the point where she was actually going into rehearsals to play Elizabeth Proctor in The Crucible. And when she had set out her schedule, she's like, this is perfect. I can do this little film that's going to be done in 8 weeks. And then I'm going to rehearse this play, and there's going to be no crossover, and I've got it. And that dude would not budge. He was like, no. You're going to come here, you're going to film. Then you can go off to your little rehearsal thing, and then you're going to come back and you're going to film again, and you better be sharp. And he was mad at her a lot of the time because he felt that because she knew the ending of the film, she wasn't playing the character right. Which is really hard for me to grasp because she's so fantastic in that role.
I know. Unless he got it out of her through multiple takes. God, that sounds like what they made like Michael J. Fox do to do the first Back to the Future movie. It's like, you'll shoot this all during the week and you'll shoot that stupid space movie on the weekend.
Enjoy it.
At midnight. Yeah, even though we're owned by the same company and Spielberg says this is okay. I'm going to make your life hell, kid.
Welcome to the business.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it goes. Welcome to the biz, kid.
Good Lord.
That sounds exactly like that. Well, if he was mad because she wasn't getting it, I think she gave a tremendous performance. So,
and was that a master stroke on the director's part of really pushing things to the limit and stretching these people out? Because you can also go in and read. There's a scene early on with the kids eating food, and they're really playing on the fact that Christina is sick and she's eating fish and she can't swallow it, doesn't want to swallow it. There's stories out there that says that he actually went out and bought spoiled fish to get an honest reaction out of his own wife on the set. It's like, you know what? I don't know me to tell her this, right? It smells fishy, this, because it's rotten fish. Put it in your mouth. Go ahead. No, swallow it.
Something tells me David Mamet doesn't do that to Rebecca Pigeon.
Man.
Or didn't, but I mean, I don't know. Rennie Harlan made Gina Davis's life hell on Hook, or whatever that.
Cutthroat Island,
whatever.
One of my wife's favorites.
Cutthroat Island. Yeah. So I mean, sometimes it works. You got to get what you want.
There's some fantastic performances in this film.
It really is, but I mean, I think that's why it lasts. And so we're definitely at the part of the podcast where it's time to give final thoughts, recommendations, and popcorn ratings. So, Chris, what are yours for Les Diaboliques?
Man, what an enjoyable film! To be able to sit there and not even have to worry about understanding it from an oral standpoint, right? I can just sit back and watch it. Mm-hmm. I can read along, and as you said, if you miss a few things with the subtitles, it's right in front of you. So you should be able to follow along with it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought with a couple of exceptions, with Clouseau's acting, when she faints by the pool and when she flops like a dead fish, solid performances all around. You've got some really great, strong characters that pull this thing together and really keep you going for a 2-hour film, from 1955. Mm-hmm. It's something that you can watch and you can keep going. I'd love to try and get my kids to watch it, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to try and give it a second watch here to watch it from the bent of Christina is the mastermind, and she's the one pulling the strings all the way along here, and see if I can get my wife to watch it with me without spoiling anything. But I think, again, for the most part, solid acting, really good direction. I would certainly recommend this to friends to watch. It's in the Criterion Collection, which is something I didn't really know until we went back to watch this again, which is, outside of it being a foreign language film, surprised me that you hadn't reviewed this one or watched this one yet on the podcast. But overall, for me, I know the last time I was on here, we watched Event Horizon. I'm like, yeah, double XL popcorn, man. That was awesome because it was a popcorn movie. This one, I'm going to go with a medium popcorn. As good as it is, and as enthralled as I was with it, I don't think I could, down a popcorn while watching this bad boy, because I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Who's who, and where are we going, and why is that guy hiding in the shadows? And how did he get his information? I want to know. But I loved it. I think it was great. I think, most people would really get a kick out of watching this film.
Side theory on how he got his information: Christina's tipping him off the whole time and just sort of disguising her voice.
Yeah,
just putting that out there.
We're ringing him up on the candlestick phone.
Yeah, could have been. Look, I'm so glad you brought this one up, because again, it's been on the list of like something I wanted to watch for years, and now to finally be able to check it off and go, holy cow, the threads this one has through so many other things. I've name dropped 10 films that reminded me of it, or there's scenes of it that are definitely echoing it, whether directly or indirectly that's happening. The influence is certainly there, and it's there because you've got a director who clearly has got a vision, and he drove everybody insane to get it, which is usually what happens on those kind of films. And you've got actors that are able to handle it. All of our actors here, particularly our two leads, are magnificent in this movie, and they have such great chemistry together. They pull off all of their scenes. Well, even the dead floppy fish scene it's funny, but for 1955, that's how people died on screen. So I'm good with it. We're a few years from the Wild Bunch and how that kind of stuff. But I liked it for that, and I liked it mostly once I got over the fact of, can I follow along language wise with this, all that kind of stuff. Once I got kind of through that, and I just started absorbing it for what it was, I was like, man, I'm really invested in this. Like, I want to know what happens. And to the point that when I'd finished it, I got up early the next morning because I was like, I just want to watch that again and not have to take notes. I just want to watch it and let it wash over me. And same kind of thing, had a great reaction to it. And it's one of those fun ones to go back and go, what do you think happens? I love your idea. Watch it with somebody who hadn't seen it and go, what do you think? It's definitely a movie to have a conversation after. And that's a high compliment for a B noir thriller, which is what this is. I mean, and it is the grandfather of a lot of trashy cinema. There's no doubt about it. And its own sequel is incredibly trashy. I do not recommend that 1996
No.
movie. It is almost the exact same thing. Kathy Bates is fun in it. Sharon Stone's fun in it. Chaz Palminteri is creepy in it, as he always is, but it's just missing something. It's missing some of the heart that this movie has, because it does kind of lean into the sleeves a little bit more, and maybe more than it should. But this movie totally holds up and works, and I'm glad you brought it to the table. I'm going to give it a large popcorn. I think it's that good. It's not perfect by any means, but it's really good, and I think because it influences so many other things, I can't not give it a good nod. So it's a strong one. It's a lot of fun. Again, recommend folks you watch this one with somebody who you don't tell anything to them about it. Say it's a murder mystery.
Yes.
That's all they need to know. And if you can don't tell them that it's in a foreign language. Just let that happen. Or if it's somebody is going to react strongly to that, go like, look, it's in a different language. We'll get over it. After 2 minutes,
Get sucked right into it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like Parasite.
Yes.
You mentioned like, oh, I can't believe you hadn't done that one yet. We may have to knock that one out sometime later this year. But same way, I knew going into that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to read this. That's all right. And I just did. And I didn't think about it anymore. And I feel the same way about like the J horror stuff that I've watched, which has all been remade into American stuff. Like the American murder. Yeah. The American version of Shudder is garbage. The Japanese version is actually really good. and it's on. I think it's on Shudder now. It's on a couple of other things or whatever. But it's worth a look, even though you're gonna have to read it to go with it. But it's still worth it. Like Battle Royale is a much cooler, interesting version than the Hunger Games.
Yes,
mostly because it doesn't star someone who looks like a dead deer. Yeah, I'm not a fan of J-Law, but that's another podcast for another day, perhaps. But yeah, large popcorn for me. A lot of fun. Chris, absolute blast talking to you again, man. Can't wait to have you back on, talk another movie here and see what we could do. We've had you on twice, man. Talk about a spectrum of things, Event Horizon and Les Diaboliques. Like we have spanned it all inside of 2 reviews.
Try to get a little bit of, sprinkle of everything in there. I grew up with my grandmother, and she thought I was crazy because I'd be upstairs listening to Bing Crosby and Mozart and Metallica and, Deicide. She's like, what are you doing up there? I'm like, I like it all. Give me anything.
In the 30 for 30 guy voice, what if I told you there would be no Metallica and Deicide if there weren't Mozart and Bing Crosby? Because they are all influenced. I'll say that's a good metaphor for this movie. Heavy metal is not classical music, but if you're going to play heavy metal guitar, you got to understand some classical music theory, because that stuff is not just thunka thunka thunka.
Yeah, it's not just noise. They're doing a lot of stuff up in there.
You listen to Kirk Hammett play guitar, it's not just a wah pedal. He's got a lot of stuff going on there that you just don't do unless you understand that stuff. Yeah, exactly. So it's fun. It's fun to talk about this, though, and have another review here in the can. Folks, again, thanks for listening. You can find all of the episodes of this grand podcast on your favorite podcast feed, Apple, Spotify, Google, or all those places. You want to find a great list of all the stuff we've done, go to our Letterboxd page. Ron has set that up for us now. You can find every review we've ever done. You can sort them by genre. You can sort them by release date of the film. You can sort them by release date of when we did the podcast, and there's a direct link to the podcast page where you can find all the places you can download it and stuff. You can go to filmstrippodcast.com to find all of that. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @FilmstripPod for updates from the show hosts and stuff like that. And if you go to our Twitter page in particular and our Instagram page, you'll find a link tree that's got all the links where you can find our stuff and all the the places you can hang out with us. One of which is our new Discord. We've kind of gotten into doing the Discord thing now. So if you want to come and just throw a quick shout to the host, a lot of us sort of ply around in there throughout the days. We'll carry on a conversation with you. Or if you want to watch us talk about the random stuff that all of us talk about offline, you can see it all there for your perusal. But we appreciate your support. So until next time, for Chris, I'm Jay. Thank you for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Filmstrip. You can find more episodes on our website, filmstrippodcast.com. The Filmstrip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.